Hi guys, Killian here. It's Operation Ice Storm week, and we're talking to Carlos about some of the rules that you'll see in Operation Ice Storm and in Infinity 3rd Edition. So Carlos, what rules we're going to look at today?
Okay, we are going to talk about the rules that comes in the Operation Ice Storm rulebook, but we can even talk further and see how is the final version in 3rd edition, because the Operation Ice Storm rulebook is very focused just in the battle of Operation Ice Storm. So we're going to talk about Lieutenant Order, which is something very important in 3rd edition. Of course, if we talk about Lieutenant Order, we should talk about loss of lieutenant, because as sudden as I know who is your lieutenant, I want to kill him. After that, we will also talk about Multispectral Visors, okay, level 1, level 2, and level 3, how does it go in 3rd edition. We should also talk about Combat Jump, very normal rule, but it has little changes for 3rd edition, and also Infiltration, that has a slightly variation in 3rd edition. Looking at how do we know the rule, how it goes in 2nd edition, and how it changes into 3rd edition. Those are the rules.
Yep. Sounds good. Let's get started. Okay, first up we're going to look at the Lieutenant Order, and also the very important case, the loss of Lieutenant. So Carlos, show us how these rules have changed now for 3rd edition.
Okay, Operation Ice Storm has these rules, and the first glimpse of 3rd edition, okay? Some are very similar to 2nd edition, but have subtle differences, which mean a lot in this game, okay? Which is very delicate. So, by looking at these miniatures here on the table, okay, here we have an army list at one of the missions of Operation Ice Storm, because Operation Ice Storm has missions that slowly includes more and more miniatures, and you will be learning those rules, and the more miniatures there are, the more rules. So it's like a narrative campaign, and also it's like a Infinity Basics 101. First mission, 3 miniatures. Second mission, 4 miniatures, including rules, so people can gradually learn them. Okay.
So there'll be missions to introduce people to Infinity by starting off with a small number of miniatures and then moving up to more and more complex rules until you know the basics of how to play the full game.
Exactly. So, Lieutenant Order. The lieutenant is usually a secret in Infinity. You don't know which is the lieutenant of your enemy. So it's usually something that is not openly declared. Okay. So by looking at these miniatures, any one of them can be the lieutenant. Okay. I'm going to say that the lieutenant, I'm going to represent the Lieutenant Order with this blue marker here, okay? I'm going to say that the Mobile Brigada is the lieutenant here. If I'm playing and at some point I act I spend my orders and I decide then to use the Lieutenant Order with the lieutenant, because only the lieutenant can spend the Lieutenant Order, I will reveal him. If I openly declare that this blue marker of the Lieutenant Order is spent, and I move the miniature, I'm obviously revealing my lieutenant. So in 3rd edition, spending the Lieutenant Order reveals the lieutenant, okay?
So the lieutenant remains hidden until his Lieutenant Order is spent, and then he's revealed to both players?
It's both players. It's an option of the player to decide to reveal his lieutenant, okay? But it's public. This is because we want things to be turnable crystal clear.
Crystal clear.
Because until now, the Lieutenant's Order was sometimes secretly spent and then communicating to the player, no, I move my lieutenant, so I have an extra order. That wasn't clear. That was an open gate to cheat in tournaments. We don't like it. So now the lieutenant, when you spend his order, he is revealed. If you want to reveal your lieutenant, do not spend the lieutenant's order. But also, I must say that in 3rd edition, the lieutenant's order is not like in 2nd edition. Please, everything that I say now in this video, everything that I say in all the videos about rules of 3rd edition, wait until 3rd edition comes and you read the whole volume of rules to understand that it's a new game, it's a different context. Don't fusion 3rd edition with what you know of 2nd edition, because it's not like that. Okay, in 3rd edition, the Lieutenant's Order is just for making an action with your lieutenant. Move and shoot, move and move, whatever, not anything else. because for making other tactical stuff that usually the Lieutenant Order is for that in second edition, there will be a new stuff in 3rd edition that will make fire teams, that will make more useful stuff. But that is, yes, those are the command tokens. They will come later in the year, and they have a complete new set of rules for them.
So there's a brand new type of order or a command token that's no longer the lieutenant order that's being used?
Yes. So and it's not even an order. It's something apart from the orders pool.
Something brand new. Wow. Okay. Well, first here today.
Yeah, but it's a big block of rules, and it's not in Operation Ice Storm because it involves the whole volume of rules of 3rd edition. So it interacts with so many stuff that doesn't make sense when putting in the little Operation Ice Storm battle. So if I act with my mobile brigada, and I am using my lieutenant order, I am showing that he is my lieutenant. Now, let's say that you in your turn, because you know the mobile brigada is my lieutenant, you kill him, okay? And you kill him in your turn,
in my turn.
And I have no longer in the table the mobile brigada, and now is my new turn. And because at the beginning of the turn, I do not have my lieutenant alive in the table, I'm in the situation of loss of lieutenant.
Yes. Now, previously, this would have been a death sentence, nearly, if you're playing in any tournament games, because loss of lieutenant is a big deal. You drop from having all of your orders just down to 2, and you can either use those 2 as normal or elect a new lieutenant. But this is now changed for 3rd edition?
Yes, we changed that because many reasons, but it was painful in 2nd edition. In 3rd edition, what happens is that if you begin the turn in the situation of loss of lieutenant, then all the miniatures that usually have these green markers as regular orders now become irregular orders, okay? And you replace them with these yellow markers, okay? The yellow markers are irregular orders. This means that they can only be spent for the miniature that provides that order, unlike the green orders that can be spent on any miniature. So you play one whole turn with all your army being irregular, something like that. There will be exceptions. Once again, the command tokens can interact this, but let's keep it simple. We're learning Infinity with Operation Ice Storm. If you lose your lieutenant, one turn will be playing as an irregular army. So this order can only be spent in this guy, and only can be spent in this guy, and that is the way you play it. When you end that turn, you secretly name another miniature as lieutenant, and then the turn goes back to you. And when you finish your turn, I'm back again, and if I have my lieutenant alive in the table, then everything goes back to normal, and everything goes back to green state, okay? And if my lieutenant is this guy, he will have his lieutenant order.
So the main difference between regular and irregular orders is that regular orders always contribute to the pool and can be used on anybody, but irregular orders are only 1 per troop. So it's not quite as bad as having only down to 2 orders, being in a bad situation, but it's still detrimental to trying to get your
and also not so confusing, and also not so hard to explain, and also it's like becoming yellow, becoming green state. It's something more easy to write, to explain, to understand, and it affects the gameplay, but not in such a hard way of losing one whole turn. It brings really tactical stuff because you can all save the day, even in a irregular turn. You can use suppression fire, you can defend yourself, you can look up the next turn in a very defensive way, put mines, really use that order in a very intelligent way. I've seen very intelligent players dealing with having just a few orders and extracting oil of them. So we're very happy with the testing games with these changes. It works. It makes heroic lieutenants also shine, because if you're having Tariq Mansouri, you know that is Tariq Mansouri. You're having Sanse, Saladin, Joan of Arc, that kind of heroes that as lieutenants is like, okay, you know that this is my lieutenant, so I'm going to attack with him. Goes that way. I'm more of a player that chooses to hide the lieutenant among the line troops, so I have more that kind of a play style, and I don't have to use the lieutenant order for my turn, and it works like that.
So that's an interesting change from 2nd to 3rd edition. We'll be looking at another rule change next. We'll be looking at multispectral visors, both levels 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so the next rule change is multispectral visors. Carlos, can you tell us something about these pieces of equipment that many troops have?
Okay, multispectral visors usually nullify negative modifiers for the shooter. It's the visors that usually many snipers have to being able to fight many different situations. In Infinity Operation Ice Storm, there are two troops with multispectral visor. Here we have them. This is the Grenzer from the Nomads. This is the Nises from Svartalfheima from the Pan-Oceania. The Nises have multispectral visor level 2. The Grenzer has multispectral visor level 1. Okay, now, third edition, okay? We have multispectral visor level 1, level 2, and there is also the level 3. In third edition, we can say that multispectral visor level 1 obtains, increases its power, its effectiveness.
Wow.
And multispectral visor level 3, we can say that has a little less power, okay?
So there's a slight upgrade to multispectral visor level 1 and a slight, well, say rebalancing perhaps?
Rebalancing, because it's still very effective, and we are pretty happy with all three of them. It makes sense. Let me explain it to you.
Okay.
Okay. Multispectral visor level 1 usually nullifies mimetism and camouflage, the -3 modifier that those troops usually have.
Yep.
In Infinity 3rd Edition, multispectral visor level 1 nullifies mimetism, camouflage, and reduces in -3 ODD and TO camo.
Wow, okay.
So when a guy with a multispectral visor level 1 is facing an enemy with TO camo or a Myrmidon with ODD, instead of having a difficulty of -6 for shooting them, he will just have a -3.
Wow.
So the troops with multispectral visor level 1 are a little more effective in Infinity 3rd Edition. That's it.
So that's going to be a significant boost to some troops who previously couldn't have dealt with those types of camouflage?
Yes, and also because those visors are in many troops of the game, you are making ODD and TO camo a little less powerful, because there is another tool that can reduce a little bit their privilege. Okay, so multispectral visor level 2 now stays the same. Nullifies both TO camo, ODD, mimetism, camouflage, and can make the smoke combo, and that's it. Okay, so multispectral visor level 3 now. What happens? It has some holes in the rules because it wasn't respecting the timing of many other rules. Because in 2nd edition, you can shoot directly at markers. That collides with all the markers rules. There is the rule of many troops can be inside the same marker.
Yes.
Who I do hit if I shoot at directly a marker? There was like, can I surprise a multispectral visor level 3 is not clear. There was doubts. And the timing also of how a troop like the Aquila Guard behave against markers wasn't like the rest of the troops. So, multispectral visor level 3 nullifies everything,
yeah, as I did before.
But it still has to discover camo markers to being able to attack the troop.
That's a big change from 2nd edition now.
Yeah, but the difference with multispectral visor level 2 is that he rolls for 20. Okay, he never fails at discover.
Wow.
While Nise trying to discover a camo marker, if he rolls a 17, he fails. But the visor level 3 never fails at discover.
So a multispectral visor level 3, which is very rare amongst the troops in the game.
Yeah, only 3 or 4 troops.
Only 3 or 4 troops, very rare, very expensive. They will auto-discover if they do a discover roll.
Yeah, but they have to perform that action. They have to spend that half order or that ARO at discovering.
So they must spend the order, but they're automatically going to succeed?
Yes, because they are rolling for a 20. They cannot fail. But because they have to spend that action, that agrees with the block of rules that we're making.
I see, okay.
Also, another advantage of multispectral visor level 3 is that they cannot be surprised by skirmishers. So, when they are shooting, because we have talked about camouflage, and camouflage now surprising is a -3, the multispectral visor level 3 ignores that, so they cannot be surprised. It's like they have Sixth Sense level 2.
Yes. So previously, only troops with Sixth Sense level 2 were immune to being surprised by enemy troops, but now troops with Multispectral Visor level 3 are no longer surprised by enemy troops. And we discuss how camouflage affects surprise attacks in another video.
And because camouflage troops has become a little more powerful in long range, this balances the whole thing, and everything works with the same timing and in the same set of rules. That is how Multispectral Visors work in 3rd edition.
Wow, so some big changes there for one of the most common equipment seen on troops, Multispectral Visors. Next, we're going to be talking about another skill seen on many troops as well, that's combat jump. Okay, so the next rule we're going to talk about is one that's seen by a lot of troops, and it's combat jump. So Carlos, how's combat jump changed for 3rd edition?
Okay, in the Infinity Operation Ice Storm book, there is the rule combat jump, which is a very simple rule. And in 3rd edition, it has been rewritten.
So the rule itself has actually been rewritten for 3rd edition?
Yes, in a simpler way, in a way more easy to understand and more easy to perform. Because the other version has to multiply the failure of the first roll. Now it's much more simple. Let's say here we have the template. Okay, this is the new template for smoke and for combat jump.
New template that's coming with Operation Ice Storm. So it's a slight change.
Yeah, just a different distribution of the numbers.
Same size, same node.
Same size. Yes.
Yep.
Wherever the template fits, you can perform a combat jump. You have to make a PH roll of the combat jump troop. Here we have the Akalis Sikh Commando. If we succeed at the roll, he will land on the template. That's done.
That's fine.
But what happens if he fails? Well, I'm going to roll the dice here. 17. So he's failing because he got a result higher than the PH value of the troop.
For all rolls in Infinity, you must get up to a number or less apart from the armor roll.
Yes. So he failed. What I'm going to do now is roll again a dice, and that will point out the direction using the template. Okay, the template has to be always deployed with the number 1 pointing at the center of the table.
1 towards the center?
Yeah. So, because I know that I failed, I roll the dice again. And I'm going to say that I have an 11. Okay, 11. So, I'm scattering the troop in the direction of number 1. Okay, 11 or 1.
So towards the center of the table?
Yes, and I measure 16 inches, okay? And the miniature ends here. Why 16 inches? Because the new scattering rule for combat jump when you fail is that you always scatter 16 inches in any direction. If this dice pointed at 4, pointed at whatever number, 16 inches in that direction. So you always scatter that distance. No calculation, no randomness, no... Okay.
Yes, a big change from the previous edition where you had to do some mental arithmetic to work out exactly how far you would scatter.
Or not.
or not.
Or just try to land it successfully.
Yeah.
The thing is, we like the scattering because it correctly simulates the wind of the conditions of the hackers or whatever that makes you fail, okay? But in a way that is easy to explain, easy to understand, easy to perform. Is the thing like that.
So you make 2 rolls. The first roll, see if you land successfully or not, and then you make another roll after that to define what direction you go in.
It's just that, just like that.
So instead of having 1 roll and a calculation, you now have 2 rolls and a flat distance to scatter. Okay, and that's for all troops that use the combat jump?
Yes.
Okay, so that's another big change from the previous edition. We're going to have another look next at Infiltration, another very, very common rule in Infinity. Okay, finally, we're going to talk about Infiltration, a very important rule in Infinity. Carlos, how's Infiltration changed for 3rd edition?
Yes, it has some subtle changes. First of all, I'm going to talk about Infiltration, not Camouflage. Many people confuse Camouflage with Infiltration. They think that in the same rule. It's not.
No.
Infiltration is an advantage at deployment, okay? So, I have an Spectre here, this troop. It has TO Camo, but apart from that, he has Infiltration. Infiltration in Operation Ice Storm is just simply until the middle of the table, you can deploy this guy. And because he has Camouflage, he can be camouflage. He can be deployed as a marker, okay? Nothing else.
So a camouflage troop can deploy up to halfway, and he always deploys as a camouflage marker? Or he can deploy as a
camouflage
marker.
But who wants not? Getting deeper in the rule, let's talk about the 3rd edition version. Apart from the little battle that Ice Storm is, infiltrating can be done in a very aggressive way. Okay, knowing that you will have the first turn, you can go aggressively and try to deploy their troop further away than the middle of the table. Okay, that will require a roll, as in 2nd edition.
As in 2nd edition, the same way, yeah.
But 2nd edition has a different version of the rule. Right now is if you try to infiltrate beyond the middle of the table, you will have to make a pH -3 roll. Doesn't matter if you're infiltrating here, here, or here, because that distance has some meaning for the roll in 2nd edition.
It was every 4 inches inside your enemy's deployment zone. You had a -1 to your physical roll to get there.
Yeah, it's no longer like that. It's just a plain roll of -3, whatever you try.
Okay.
And because you're making a roll, you cannot make a hidden deployment because you're already making a roll for infiltration. So you make a roll, and if you fail, okay, if you succeed, you are there and you are camouflaged as a marker if you want, if you have the skill. If you fail, okay, then instead of scattering and stuff, you go, you have to deploy your troop back in your normal deployment area and next to the side of the table, one of the edges of your side. So
previously, if you'd failed your infiltration roll, you would scatter in the same way that you would scatter, for example, for an air drone deployment. But now, if you fail, you no longer scatter, you start back in your own deployment zone.
Basically, we are punishing more the aggressive infiltration. Okay, it's more risky. If you failed it, you will have to bring that troop back. If you succeed at an aggressive infiltration, you have a lot of advantages. But and if you have any kind of extra equipment with an ability like Mine Layer, I'm thinking about Mine Layer. If you fail, there is no mine placed.
Wow.
Not at all.
So that's another big change.
Yes, we are punishing that kind of aggressive maneuver. It's still allowed and can still have a good result, but there has to be a sense of risk when doing it. And that's how it goes. If I really try, knowing that I have the first turn, try to really menace the other player, I have to risk something in exchange. Scattering leads us to situations where you fail, but you finally end up having an infiltrator in a still positive situation, in a still dangerous zone for the enemy. So we're skipping that.
So infiltration, it's still free up to halfway as it was in 2nd edition, but now it's much more risky to go into your enemy's half the table. It's no longer a minus for every 4 inches, it's a flat -3. And if you fail, you no longer scatter, you start back in your own deployment zone.
Yes, yes. More risky, but more balance for the other player. Many situations of having a very, very dangerous guy who end up, okay, maybe not here, but here, you know, nothing pretty serious, still being an menace, still having lines of fire with important people, still a camouflage troop, which is a guy who has become more powerful with 3rd edition. So it's a decision that we took after a few years of testing.
A few years of testing. So it's been extensively tested and found it to be the case. Well, that's very interesting. We've looked at a few different types of rule today, and definitely some big changes now on the horizon for Infinity 3rd edition. Again, if you have any questions or comments, post them below, and hopefully the guys from Corvus Belli will get back to you. We'll be back soon with another video here.